I've spent decades tracking the rise and fall of nations, but few stories have captivated me like that of Muammar Gaddafi, the desert lion of Libya. His tale is one of ambition, defiance, and ultimately, tragedy.
Today, we declare the birth of the Libyan Arab Republic. No more shall we bow to foreign powers or monarchs. Libya's wealth belongs to its people.
September 1st, 1969. A young army officer, barely 27, stands atop a military vehicle in Tripoli. The air is thick with the promise of change.
Remember, young Muammar, power that challenges the world order often destroys itself. Tread carefully. And those who don't challenge it remain forever under its boot. I choose to stand, not kneel.
But Gaddafi was not one to heed warnings. His vision for Libya, for all of Africa, was nothing short of revolutionary. In a world still shaped by colonial legacies, he dared to dream of true independence. And build he did. In those early years, Libya transformed.
Brother Muammar, you've given us hope. My children will go to school because of you.
This is the true face of our revolution. Dignity for every Libyan.
It was moments like these that endeared Gaddafi to his people. But on the global stage, a different game was unfolding.
Brothers, do you not see? Our oil is not just fuel for their machines, but a weapon for our liberation. Why should we sell our lifeblood for paper money controlled by our oppressors?
It was here that Gaddafi truly grasped the geopolitical chessboard. Oil wasn't just black gold. It was power, a means to reshape the global order, and he was determined to use it.
Muammar, pursuing this Pan-African agenda, it's dangerous. The West won't stand for it. They'll see it as a threat.
Then let them tremble. Africa has been exploited for too long. It's time we dictate our own future. A united Africa, with its own currency, its own power. That's what they fear.
Father, your dreams for Africa are noble, but at what cost to our family, to Libya? The West is not an enemy to be taken lightly.
My Aisha, my wise daughter, can't you see? This is bigger than us. It's about the dignity of a continent. Yes, there are risks, but without risk, there is no change.
And so, the die was cast. Gaddafi, the desert lion, was ready to roar on the world stage. His vision of a united, powerful Africa free from Western influence was taking shape. But in the shadowy corridors of power, from Washington to London to Paris, forces were already aligning against him. Now you see, Gaddafi's ambitions weren't confined to Libya's borders. No, he had a grander vision, one that would shake the very foundations of global finance.
Brothers and sisters of Africa, why do we let others dictate our worth? Our continent is rich, our people resilient. I propose a united Africa with a single currency backed by gold, our gold.
It was a bold move, one that sent shockwaves through Western capitals. A gold-backed African currency? It threatened the very core of the global financial system.
For too long, we've sold our oil for paper money controlled by our oppressors. No more. We'll trade in gold in a currency that reflects our true wealth.
Gaddafi's words were like tremors, spreading from the deserts of Libya to the corridors of power in the West. And, one might wonder, was this the moment he sealed his fate?
A gold-backed African currency, if Gaddafi succeeds, it could undermine the dollar's global dominance. This cannot happen.
Sir, we're already mobilizing our assets in the region. We'll make sure it doesn't.
As Gaddafi's influence grew in Africa, so did the determination of Western powers to stop him. But the desert lion was oblivious to the gathering storm.
Father, your dreams for Africa are inspiring many, but they're also making powerful enemies. Are you sure this is wise?
Aisha, my daughter, wisdom is not in avoiding conflict, but in fighting for what's right. Africa has been exploited for too long. It's time we stand up.
The world watched, fascinated and appalled in equal measure, as Gaddafi's antics on the global stage became more theatrical. But beneath the spectacle, a deadly serious game was being played.
We've identified key opposition groups in Libya. With the right support, we can turn the tide against Gaddafi.
Do it, whatever it takes. Gaddafi's vision for Africa cannot become a reality. Today, we take the first step towards true African independence. Together, we will build a future free from Western exploitation.
It was Gaddafi's moment of triumph. But as he basked in the applause of his African colleagues, storm clouds were gathering. The desert lion had roared his challenge to the world order. Now, the world was preparing to answer.
Our assets in Libya are in place. We've identified key opposition groups ready to move against Gaddafi.
Good. It's time to turn up the heat. Make sure our media contacts have what they need.
You see, power is a fickle thing. One moment, you're on top of the world, and the next, protests have erupted across Libya, with demonstrators calling for an end to Gaddafi's 4-decade rule. The government's response has been swift and violent.
Brother leader, the situation is deteriorating. Several cities in the east have fallen to the rebels.
Rebels? You mean Western puppets? They will not succeed. Libya rejects these traitors.
But reject them as he might, the tide was turning. The Arab Spring, which had already toppled regimes in Tunisia and Egypt, had now reached Libya's shores.
This is Muammar Gaddafi. I need your support now more than ever. Remember our agreements, our vision for Africa.
Freedom! Down with the regime!
The very people Gaddafi claimed to champion were now turning against him. But was this truly a spontaneous uprising, or something more orchestrated?
Gentlemen, we're looking at a humanitarian crisis in Libya. We need to be prepared to intervene.
Remember, our actions must be justified. We're protecting civilians, not regime change.
The world watched as Libya descended into chaos. But behind the scenes, a different game was being played.
Sir, we've identified key targets for the first wave of airstrikes. Minimal civilian presence confirmed.
They want to destroy Libya, to colonize us again. But we will fight. Every man, woman, and child, we will never surrender.
His words were as fiery as ever, but the flames were closing in. Longtime allies were jumping ship, seeing the writing on the wall.
We cannot support Gaddafi any longer. The violence against civilians, it's too much.
The very leaders who once applauded Gaddafi's vision of a united Africa were now distancing themselves. His dream of a gold-backed African currency crumbling before his eyes. But even as Gaddafi stood defiant, the noose was tightening. NATO planes were in the air, rebel forces were advancing, and the desert lion's reign was coming to its violent end.
Ahem, they think they can break us. But we are not a people who bow to foreign invaders. We will fight street by street, house by house, room by room.
Now you see the endgame was approaching. The desert lion, once so proud and defiant, was about to face his final hours.
We've located Gaddafi's convoy leaving Sirte. Rebel forces are in pursuit.
Remember, our mandate is to protect civilians. We're not here to target Gaddafi directly.
But intentions and outcomes are often worlds apart in the fog of war.
We've cornered him. The rat is hiding in a drainage pipe.
In those final moments, did Gaddafi reflect on his journey? From a young, idealistic officer to the self-proclaimed King of Kings of Africa, now reduced to hiding in a sewer pipe?
Don't shoot, don't shoot. What did I ever do to you?
His pleas fell on deaf ears. The man who once commanded the attention of the world stage met a brutal, ignominious end.
They'll say he was a tyrant, a madman. But he dreamed of an Africa free from Western control. Was that his real crime?
As Libya descended into chaos, the ripples of Gaddafi's fall spread far beyond its borders.
The tyrant is gone. Now Libya can look forward to a bright democratic future.
But history, as always, had other plans. While Libya struggled elsewhere, new alliances were forming.
The unipolar world is no more. Together, we can create a new global order, one not dictated by Western interests alone.
It was as if Gaddafi's ghost lingered in that room. His dream of challenging Western economic dominance lived on, but in a form he could never have imagined.
Gaddafi's mistake was standing alone. We will not make the same error. Our strength lies in our unity.
The desert lion may have fallen, but his roar? It echoes still in the emerging multipolar world. And who knows what new challenges, what new visions will shape our future. In the ever-shifting sands of global politics, only one thing is certain. Change is the only constant. As we reflect on the rise and fall of Muammar Gaddafi, we're left to ponder the complex legacy he left behind. A visionary to some, a tyrant to others, his story serves as a stark reminder of the volatile nature of power and the enduring struggle for global influence. In the years since Gaddafi's fall, we've witnessed the emergence of new power blocs, challenging the very order he once dared to confront. The BRICS nations, led by figures like Vladimir Putin, have taken up the mantle of creating an alternative to Western-dominated global systems. As we look to the future, one can't help but wonder, will these new alliances succeed where Gaddafi failed? Or will they too fall victim to the relentless tides of geopolitics? Only time will tell. In the end, perhaps the true lesson of Gaddafi's story is this: in the grand theater of world politics, today's revolutionaries may become tomorrow's cautionary tales. The game never truly ends, it merely enters a new phase.